So honored to have Kelle again. What a great person, LinkedIn connection, and just somebody who brightens every room she walks into. So with that said, chat is open. We're depending on you to lead us in whatever ways that we can help you. Feel free to reach out, and if nothing else, introduce yourself, where you're from, and we can get the ball rolling. With that, I want to turn it over to Kelle. Kelle, how are things going? And, as importantly, you followed this track every week for a long time. And,
Yes, so great to be back.
well, okay, tell us about it.
Yeah, so it's been so awesome to watch all the new people that have been coming on. Like I just from the beginning of the year, Dawn, it's just been awesome to watch like what's happening and the snowball continuing to grow. Like I love seeing all the new faces, the amazing stories that are being shared. And honestly, like the immediate friendships that are also coming from
Mhm.
this. Anne was on yesterday, and her and I connected after we were on together last week. And I mean, I adore her, so much in common, so many things to do. And I look forward to speaking with her again later today. Um, but just the variety of people and how, and I'll go back. I know I've said this a lot of times. I feel like everyone in this group, somehow it's like this being pre-vetted in the sense of you see the names, you know them. I'm getting amazing, not just conversation, but messages. I've connected with so many people on here offline, Zoom calls, etc. Great conversation, great. And I want to say leads. I mean, this is LinkedIn and we're looking for people to connect with, I think organically, in a sense of people are longing for that right now. We love technology. I have a love-hate relationship with it sometimes. But I think, what we were saying just before we came on, it's old school to connect with people on a human level, which is kind of funny to say that it's old school. But I feel like it's this new, movement, if you will, because people want real connection. I think they're really tired of all of the, botted emails and the people being afraid to have true conversation. And like I said, the conversations I've been having with a lot of the folks who are on here, because I will absolutely have calls with you if you want, and because if there's anything I can do, I'm more than happy to help. But the conversations they're deep. I mean, they're deep in the sense of, they enrich my life, not just like, oh, this is a great connection to have here on LinkedIn. And, if I know somebody that needs your service, I would recommend you now. Which I think referrals obviously is the greatest, compliment to anyone. But truly just the conversations are so rich and deep because it's like everyone lets down their walls and they're in this vulnerable place. And it's just like, wow. And that came from just being on a LinkedIn Live. It's so beautiful. And I love watching it grow. I'm so proud to be part of it, and honored in so many ways. So, what are your thoughts, Dawn, on what's been happening this year? It's been so great.
Oh, I got to pinch myself when I wake up every day that I get to look forward to this hour because you said so much in so little time that's so valuable. And I just want to leverage off of it. And it was kind of funny before we got on. I said, well, is there anything you want to talk about? And it was like, let's just, when we go live, it'll come to us. And what's coming to us is really the evolution of this, because not only are new people coming on, but older people have now shed their armor, right, and shared their story. And because of that, now they've done everything they had to do to open up and be accessible. And I think that's what this show gives you, is access. And then every week you get to know Ambola a little bit better. You get to know Christine so much better. And so it's not just the same people with more of them the same. It's people who planted 3 months ago are starting to reap great benefit. And even Christine was able to match up with Roxanne, right? And eventually it's like watching a carousel of wonderful people, and you get to stop on any one of them, right? And match up with them in your own way after you've already gotten to know who they are. They don't have to tell you if you've watched them for 3 months, right? And I think what's beautiful about it is in addition to that, it's helping people. It's making people feel better. And that's something special today. It's making people get well sooner. It's making people have hope, because now there's a new door with people who are in the same position. And I was talking yesterday afternoon on a call, and there's nobody who isn't dealing with more challenges than they've ever had before. And you could say because of insulation, isolation, and in the past, you could be more mobile in getting out and staying out and meeting people.
Mm-hmm.
But now it's more like, hey, get in, get out, because of that, whatever goes with it. And I think to Christine's point, which is what the next step is we need to connect on Zoom, because we're doing a lot of thinking, a lot of talking, a lot of inspiring, but it's really working together next, right? Taking these things and what it's going to turn out to be. And that's why I've taken so long and put so much thought into it. And it's changed like 3 times in the last 2 weeks of what it can do. Is it's actually a working group. Yeah. So in other words, someone comes in with a challenge, an opportunity, or a problem, and they get whoever's around the table, fresh eyes, ears, no skin in the game, and they can get another perspective, right? And or a confirmation. I mean, it's not like look for the problem, look for the best in this. And then people have now another support vehicle that before they do a presentation, before they make an offer, hey, let's get some brainstorming here. And then the next step is doing it better. I mean, we can break away from the pack, not just the way the message is or how we deliver the message, but how we act in every level of interaction. Mm-hmm. With LinkedIn as being the $900 million person pie, and LinkedIn Live being the communication channel. You would see a movement that would move so quick because it's based on a viral network. Mm-hmm. So here's Ambola. Want to introduce her. Hello, everyone. If you weren't here, I'd be wondering if I should be here, Ambola. So you're so steady and consistent. And I will say one thing: whatever you do, consistency is one of the keys.
Oh, amen.
Right.
And I also need to say, I loved her post yesterday on International Women's Day. Your mom is beautiful. I loved your share. Because I'll go back to, I loved the day that your mom was listening with you, and it was just like, God, that's so cool. I love that it's something, because again, this is a message here that we're doing that applies to absolutely everyone, regardless of age, where you are, because it's about support, it's about community, and we all need it. And Christine, yes, we do need to connect on a Zoom call. I will message you. I've had some amazing Zoom calls with some folks from here. Yesterday alone, I had one with Omar and with Paul, both just amazing human beings, love what they're doing. And again, such depth. I could have talked to Paul, I think, all day long. He's just such a good young man who has such a bright future. But the support from everyone, and what you were just saying, to piggyback on that, Dawn, it's so great that it's like, hey, I'm going to have an interview maybe for the first time in a decade. And can I work with you? Can you run through some questions with me so that I'm prepared, or whatever it is, or I'm doing a presentation and I haven't done one in a long time. Ask someone to help you. Just have them listen. I mean, you would be so surprised at how many people are willing to do what they can to help. And I love seeing that so much. And I'm seeing it so much more in my feed of the just positivity and people willing to give of themselves. Nobody's asking for things as much as it seemed it used to be. There certainly is a segment of the population that it's all about me. But this is all about how can we do this together, or what can I do to help you? And I mean, it makes me so happy every day hearing that and knowing it, and knowing that, me being even a part of it is, again, such an honor, a blessing, and a privilege. But I just love seeing it, and it just makes me feel so great. And I think, I can't remember exactly who said it, but saying like that it's an addiction. And it's like, what a great addiction to be addicted to positivity and, giving to others. Don't you think so, Don?
Oh, absolutely. And here's what we've proven. It's not just a philosophy or a viewpoint. It's a proven activity that happens every time we go live because, we're touching hundreds of people, right? You only see me and Kelly, and then we only see who's commenting. But there's so many people who are in the back row who are happy to be there. And there's so many people who will get the show again at their convenience for decades from now. And if it can put one smile on 500 faces over an hour, if it can make people laugh, if it can make people cry, if it can make people remember their grandparents, if it allows people to share their mother with everybody, what a gift is that for both you, your mother, and the person. I hear so many stories of people growing up, and that's how deep it goes. To Kelly's point, how many people are you talking about and sharing family secrets, family celebrations, and enjoying it because you're hearing it from you also. You're repeating it. It's not you and someone else, it's you and someone else and you, right? That gets the benefit from it. And all of a sudden, you feel prouder, right? Because if not for you, you say, boy, I was so happy to have that aunt, right? Or that uncle who took me to the ball game and made me feel like special that day. And maybe never even knew it. And maybe I was too embarrassed or shy to say it. But it still happened and I remembered it. And if you can, like we talk about, organize your closet in your brain and say, let me go shopping in my life and only bring up the best things you want to focus and hear in the loop that you have. If what hurt you was because people minimized you or took advantage of you, that should be a lesson not to do it yourself to yourself.
Yes.
Because you end up playing them over. It's like, why did you bring this character in? If it was a play. So anyways, Ambambola, wow, thank you, Kelly. And that's what's so good. There is so much thank you here. There is so much hello here. I'm sorry I'm late here. And no one has to be sorry if they don't feel sorry, but not so much to feel sorry, but to say, I'm trying to fortify this group. I'm trying to lead by example. I'm trying to show up. Because when you show up for something, you start showing up for yourself. And that's where the difference is, right? Amen. What do you think, Kelly?
I completely agree. I mean, this is about showing up for yourself. And to go to what you were just saying too about, our brains and our talk and what we feed it, sort of thing. This is a mindset every morning. You cannot, and I would challenge anyone to be on this show or to listen to this show and not leave feeling better than you did when you arrived. I know I always do, because, and then your mindset for the rest of the day is on that path. So you're already set to be, positive and great. And I feel good when I walk out, and you emote it. I think when there's so much of the negativity and the bad energy, or however you want to frame it, our brain can say the most horrible things to us that are so untrue. And an example I've used with many people that I've coached over the years is, when your brain is giving you that negative self-talk, how would you feel if that was being said to somebody you loved? And of course, everyone always says like, well, I would completely kick their rear end. I would never tolerate someone speaking to someone I love that way. And it's like, then why do you accept it for you? So it goes back to our whole thing of what we say about mindset. And I just love how this frames the day, and it starts with something. I always learn something new. You connect with someone differently by hearing their stories. The vulnerability that people allow to be here is incredible. People who are on for the first time, and Anne is an example, and I was blown away by her story the first time she was on for so many reasons, but it was just so um, her vulnerability, and it was you couldn't stop listening to it. I mean, it was just I had such respect for what she shared, and it of course touched me so deeply. But that's the beauty of it. Like people feel that comfortable. Maybe to go to the other side of that, or like Christine coming on, in her sweats and her PJs, and no hair, her makeup and not done, and her do undid, as she would say. I mean, that's just so wonderful. Like, what a community to feel so safe and supported to be able to do those things. And for people to be able to reach out and say, hey, I do need help with this, or thank you for helping me with this, or hey, I think I've got a connection that you need to meet. I just, it's so beautiful that that's what's created here, and it's attracting more of it. And I do also love the fact that I've not seen anything of the opposite, in the sense of I've not seen anything negative come through here, no negative comments at all on any level. It's just been support and what can we do for one another, or how everyone in the chat will, oh my gosh, hi, whoever, who's coming in. And when somebody is new, everyone, it's not like, oh, well, you haven't been here, you're new here, you're not part of our clique in this community. It's everybody is like, oh my gosh, welcome. It's so good to have you here. And there's just not anything out there that I think is like it, and that is helping people, especially now. Like you said, it's not just that everybody, I think on some level has suffered some sort of isolation, depression, whether it's from losing their job or being at home or whatever the situation. But the job losses now are just massive. And it's so hard to watch how many, and I love seeing so many people, Christy as an example, offering, hey, I'll rewrite your resume. She doesn't charge. She's doing all these things because she wants to help people and is offering it to people. And I know others that are in this community are doing the same. Hey, I just want to do something to help you. I'm not trying to gain anything. I just want to give. And that's the beauty of, all of it. And in my opinion, what do you think, Don?
Oh, I think a lot about it. And what I think most about it is that everybody needs to stay in shape and be in practice. And when someone does something pro bono to somebody, they're doing something to themselves because they're applying themselves, they're learning, they're creating, they have something to show for that day. And I think one of the reasons this show has been able to do what it's been able to do is the only ask is show up and contribute for you.
Yep.
There hasn't been a charge. There hasn't been a restriction. There hasn't been a qualification. This is not a private group. It's an inclusive, expansive group that favors diversity, has no boundaries as far as culture or geography. And because of that, now it's all on the person, right? It's like, and what I'm learning is vulnerability is a healthy part of human living, right? When people have to hide it, close it, disperse it in little bits, just to make sure they're not embarrassing themselves or inviting judgment. I know how many people say that I couldn't disclose things at work because they wouldn't understand and I would probably get punished in some way. But when you finally can go to somewhere, and this is really no different than AA or any support group, right? People are coming here with challenges, and that's the common thread. It could be physical issues, it could be relationship issues, it could be career issues, it could be financial issues, and you can add another 100 issues in subsets. But where's the relief? And where's the relief when you need it now?
Yeah.
If you have an issue and someone says, well, we'll see you in 2 weeks. And what my sense is everybody knows most systems and institutions are broken or don't work as efficiently as they should, serving people, accessibility to people. And that's where peer-to-peer groups that come together for common cause and purpose are the answer, right? Because I believe Kelly's more valuable than somebody you may never know or meet, and they're your counselor. Now they're your whatever they are. Where if you got to know a person, that alone has so much value in community and companionships. You know, the worst thing in any bad situation is being alone.
Yes.
You take a bad situation and then you make it so much worse by moving away instead of moving forward. You know, instead of going to places where there's people, even, you know, and the best places to be are the places you've never been with people you've never met, right? That's why I went to Toastmasters. That's why I found groups and congregations that were inclusive and were into support. And then I had something and somebody and a calendar, right? If services were Wednesday and Sunday, or uh, groups met on Tuesday, that was something I knew I'd be with people. I forget about myself. So the best thing you can do while you're dealing with things
Yeah.
is to have some company. And this is great company right in front of you. So let's go to Linda. Linda's an everydayer.
Yes.
Good morning, all from Central Illinois. I'm so impressed yesterday that you're a great grandmother, and you know you've developed such a influence on the future, you know, by everything you've done in the past, and it's getting recognized now on this show and around the world. And that's so cool. This is like being around the table at a family reunion, sharing, caring, and be able to help you grow and be more of who you were meant to be. And there's nothing like family. There really isn't. And but the challenge is not everybody's fortunate to have the same families.
That's right.
Right? Some mothers, some grandmothers left a bad impact. And we know that they went through things, and we'll never know, and why they did. It doesn't matter. You know, to me, someone gives you the baton, you run.
Mm-hmm.
Don't look back. You don't talk about who gave it to you. Just, it's your race, it's your lap.
That's right.
You go for it. And no matter what's happened to you, it's gotten to you to now. You survived it to be where you are, and it's over. Right? It may not be over in your mind, but the event is done and it's not coming back the same way. So it's really getting people to support each other. Ann Bambola says a community like this that makes you feel at home, irrespective of who you are or what issues you're going through, is the best place to be. And that's the only way it should be. Why would anybody want to put an impediment or a boundary or something in someone's way? And you know, the worst thing is making it worse for somebody, right? If you can't add value, don't criticize, you know, because most people, it's so easy to say, well, you're just weak, you know, or you're just this. But if no one is where you are, and no one is where you are, because there's only one you, right? People should honor that. And, you know, as everybody forgives everybody in the same degree, then everybody's safe again. Right? Because your time will come. Everybody's time comes. Life treats everybody pretty much the same over time. Some get it early, some get it late, but you're going to deal with it. And then, you know, it's like insurance. You buy insurance hoping you'll never need it, right? You build support hoping you can continue to give and not have to receive. You don't want to be on the, I just got into this trouble, anybody know anything? But when you are in that situation, it's great to know you got 10 friends who will rise to the occasion, will get you on a call, will connect, and not only that, will connect you to other people.
Yeah.
Somebody may say, I know exactly who can help you. I'll do my best, but here's the person, right? And they make that introduction. Now you got instant access. And one last thing to follow up on what you said, Kelle, which is you're getting so really good at this because it's so natural, you know, as far as being able to facilitate and communicate. And the big point is I'm getting so much better every day. So the next week's show will be better because I'm getting better. And what I also learned, I'm so comfortable with the audience, with the co-host, and with the flow that I don't have to push. I don't have to teach. I don't have to come up with, here's the 6 ways you make things happen, because in most cases, that's all they're giving you.
Right.
And the problem with that is what's going to be tomorrow's 6?
Mm-hmm.
The same as today. What's the point of tuning in? But, if Linda has an issue, if Dean wants to share something, and we also know everybody's situation by now.
Mm-hmm.
We know who's going to physical therapy. We know how many grandkids everybody has. We've learned all the facts. Now is using that to really make people feel as good as they can with the time we give them. If Linda walks away after this show and meets the next person she talks to, she's going to be a different Linda than she was 2 hours ago.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And the person she talked to will now ripple that experience. So in a way, you may never see the direct result.
Right.
But the intention and the opportunity, and it just takes one, and we're talking about millions. So what's your thoughts on that?
I mean, I completely agree. And it's kind of interesting because listening to what you were saying about, reaching out to community, it's interesting because a lot of the conversations I've been having over the past few weeks, it actually made me realize during the hardest times in my life were the times that I went to community, in the sense of I was very involved in charity work following a horrible divorce, which, I mean, no divorce, I've never heard a divorce be celebratory, but I had a very awful situation. And my immediate thought was, I need to fill my mind with positivity in my free time, because I was working, and I was working a lot to fill my time. But I got involved in children's charities because I thought I need to do something positive for my community. But it truly was because I needed community for me. I needed to feel that love back and feel, and really I was going through a stage of transformation in the sense of rediscovering myself, because I was in a very volatile situation. And so it's just interesting. And even at the end of last year, and I've been a mentor, I've always been involved in charity in some way, local community. My parents, that was just part of our childhood. It was about giving back. At Christmas, we would adopt families and give for them to know that that's just part of what we should do as human beings, is give to community. So it's interesting that when I was looking back, and I'm like, man, every time I've been having like something, I get more involved in community. And I never realized it, but I'm like, it's because I needed it. Like I needed, and it wasn't help that I knew how to ask for, because I didn't really know what I needed in this particular time after my divorce. I didn't know what I needed. I just knew I was trying to rediscover myself and put the pieces back together. But what I really needed was love. And that's what community gives you, is love. And it seems so simple and basic, but that's the beauty of it. And we try to complicate things, whether or not it's through, technology, or we overthink, I do that sometimes too. But it really just does go to that. And that's what this is, because we all need love to feel whatever it is, because even if you're not calling it love when you leave here, that is what you're getting, because you've shown up for yourself. You have people that are here listening to you, reading what you say, communicating back and forth. And that at the core is just, it's love. And that's what we all need. And I think so many people are craving it more right now in this world for so many different reasons. But it just comes down to the basic of like, we are all the same. And we really all do need those same basic things. And, it doesn't matter if you're, and I know I've used Ambimbola as an example before, but I connected with her. I'm in Arizona in the United States, and she's in Nigeria. But you have this connection because we're the same. And I feel that that's just what this is at the core, and which is why it makes it so beautiful and and so different from everything else. But on the same token, it's like, why isn't there more of this, right?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And there will be, because everything we're talking about is building the framework of something that's going to get bigger and better, because as we bring more people in, as more people contribute, I mean, again, I always go back to that mosaic. You know, everybody is a jewel here. And
Mhm.
when they come and bring themselves and who they are together with everybody else, and we all get better together every week, every day. And we know this is a good track to be on, because love is a feeling, not a thought only,
Yeah.
right? And what makes you feel love is love. Most people, you can define it in 100 different ways, and it shows up in all kinds of ways. But the ones that are true to you, that bring back something in you that you had and got forgotten for a while because it got
Yeah.
taken over by defense and tactic and strategy and protection, right? And at a certain point, the war is over. You got to take the armor off, because if nothing else, it's just too clunky, and it restricts you. And then you open up, so you take out the outside, but then you open up the inside to receiving, right? I mean, love has to be transmitted. It can't be just one way and nothing happens in return. But anyways, I don't want to go too deep into that. With this, Christine is going to get her hair done. So my hair is going to take over the world today. It's all done up because I'm visiting with clients.
Right.
LOL. Well, that's so cool, because that's where your mind is right now. That's where your feelings are right now. So why not bring them to where you are right now, with the people you are right now? How many people are with people who aren't present? They're in front of you, but they're not present. I mean, they're on their phone, they're looking at the next appointment, they're looking at everything but you, and everything that you're getting neglected for will be there far after you are,
Yeah. That's
right?
so right too. I can't. I mean, it's funny because I was just talking to somebody about this a couple days ago, actually. Like when you're in restaurants now or somewhere and you see a family sitting down at the table and all of them are looking at a device, and I'm like, what was the point of being here? Um, and which is the other thing with here. I can't. When I go meet somebody, and I do this on purpose, I put my phone down, face down, or I put it in my bag and leave it away. If I'm expecting something, a work call, or there's a reason, I might say, I'm just going to leave my phone here because I'm expecting a call. I apologize in advance if it's something I have to take, because I think people so appreciate when you are present. It's like the art of listening. Um, I mean, it is an art. Like, truly listen to people. You'd be so amazed at what you learn just by being present and listening, but also how it makes the other person feel. Um, I think there's nothing better than that, than knowing someone is present with you in that moment. Like, you have my undivided attention. Um, that's a wonderful thing to have from somebody else. And I mean, again, it seems so simple, but so many people are terrible at it because they're either listening to and thinking about their reply, which I always find fascinating. And you can actually see it in people when you're talking. You're like, you're not hearing anything that's coming out of my mouth anymore because you're already formulating how you're going to respond to me, which I think is so funny, because you can really recognize that happening. Um, but really listen and being present. I learned so much that way. And it also, but I've learned it over time. I definitely wasn't good at it when I was younger. And because I did think, you've got to respond quickly, um, to things for whatever reason. I don't know why we think that. But truly listening to people, which is truly what I loved about management. Um, I loved managing a team because I loved hearing about them, knowing about them, watching them achieve, helping them achieve. But I always knew how to gauge them, because if somebody came in and I could tell like they were a little bit down, as an example, I would very gently maybe call him in my office at some point in the day and just be like, hey, I just wanted to check in with you. Are you okay? Is there anything that I can do for you? I'm not
Hmm.
asking them to tell me anything. They don't have to share what's going on in their personal life, but just if they're going through something, it always just feels good to know, like, gosh, there is somebody here. Like, remind people, and just pay attention to your environment. Because we've all been there in the sense of like, and I definitely have had that, hey, Kelly, you don't seem yourself. What's going on? And it's like, gosh, you're right. I'm feeling, like garbage or whatever. Something's really bothering me and I need to talk through it. Um, like that's the greatest thing to have in people. And it's so simple. Um, and I feel like I'm saying that over so many things, but it's just like, just listen. And that's what we do here. And that's what I definitely love about it. Um, and and I'm going to say it again. I'm like so grateful to be part of this journey here, and how it all even came about. Dawn is still so, and I've shared it with so many people, which is so interesting too, because I'm like, hey, I was just not feeling my shiny self, for lack of a better term, at the beginning of the year. And was really like, I need to shake things up. Like, I need something different. I don't know what it is, but I know I'm not doing enough. Like, I know that there's more of my purpose that I'm supposed to be living. And I was on the phone with you like the next day, and then on LinkedIn Live 2 days later. And just so many things have been coming my way. And I do give a lot of credit to this show because it is about mindset. And when your mindset is all about, I'm like, I want to achieve, I want to live in my purpose more often or more purposefully, however I want to phrase it. And I'm doing that because I'm starting my day with this, because generally I don't miss very many. And when I do, I go back and I listen because I like to know what's going on with people, and just how the community is growing and changing and how people are interacting. But even when I can't watch, I listen, and it does make my day different. I mean, I notice when I was so frustrated last Friday because I was traveling, and Christy was on her first show, and I was in on the beginning, but I was in the middle of the desert and it kept dropping off, and I couldn't keep the connection. But in any event, it's just one of those things that it was like, man, I'm bummed that I didn't get to hear it. And I noticed that it does change my day because you didn't get your dose of encouragement or your dose of positivity, the empower hour, if you will. I notice when it's absent, and which is great. And it goes to the whole, and I do think it's Christine that called this a good addiction. It is a great addiction, and I'm so grateful I have it.
What's so cool about it, Kelly, and you tell it so wonderfully and beautifully, is that it's only getting started.
Mhm.
There's so much more to learn, so many more people to meet, so many, and that's just one with one or one with a group. When people get around a table, and the talent, the experience, the wisdom that everybody has. And it doesn't have to be in business, it could be more importantly in life. Because
Mhm.
if we're talking about communicating, having relationships, things like that, why not be the best you can, help everybody else be the best you can, and then meet with the best you are to make things better? Because things get done. If you look at some communities like barn raisings, right? Whole community will come together and they'll put a barn together, as a community in a day or two, right? And
Mhm.
have a good time doing it. And again, like that stone soup story,
I love that story.
but by just everybody bringing their little spice, seasoning, perspective. The key is, like you say, Kelly, if everybody comes here with the right intent, with respect, without judgment, with support. And even sometimes when you got to stretch, you say, I'll give them the benefit of doubt and I'm with them, right? Because that's what they're looking for is, hey, here's my issue. And everybody says, I got the same issue. I know somebody's got the issue. What I was talking to yesterday on the phone is I don't know what healthy mental health looks like. Everybody's got something, How is anything totally balanced? And, most people, if they look at things as what they are instead of what they've been taught to believe they are, and that's where prejudice comes into play, is usually based on ignorance,
Yeah.
right? Or even worse, misinformation that now
Yes.
is taken the wrong way and acted on. And, we are an island in the sun. And I'm getting people with 300,000 connections who are watching the show and being amazed. You know why? Because we started with heart and we layered on intention and love and honesty and trust. So if you could build a building and all of them were the intangibles of what you love most about what you could be, right? More generous, more thoughtful, more respectful. The more humble you get, the more up there is, right? Because if you just start as a grain of sand, right, and you don't need much, and you can offer so much, isn't that the best position you can be in? If someone says, here, let me show you your future, you're going to be in a position to help so many with things you paid so dearly for, which will make them a little bit more worthwhile. And now you're going to get empowered, right? Nobody was born a superstar. And if you can just look at where Kelly's come since she's joined, but not only that, look at people like Andrea, look at people like Sarah, look at people like Gretchen. You can just go on and on and on, and they keep coming because there's so many of us who are really in the silent majority, right? We're the ones who hold back. We're the ones who don't say things when we should because we don't want to hurt somebody's feelings. More importantly, we just don't feel empowered at the time. So Dean's here. Dean, uh,
Dean.
everybody wants to be heard, and everybody should be heard. It's their right to be heard. Why should anybody be stifled? Why should anybody be held down? And who's holding them down, and how far up are they at that point? So you got to be the example of what you want others to be. Linda Cole, yes, this is very true. Poonam's here almost every day. Sometimes we are very isolated in the crowd.
Yes.
Poonam's a lawyer in India. Share things about what you do in India, or get to know us and allow us to get to know you better whenever you're comfortable. Yes, Don was on a coalition board, is getting started again, and so many new rules, mandates, and confusion, fear this time here can help someone not feel it's only them in the position or problem. I relate to bad divorce. Am relating for some. I'll see if I can read it. Okay, here we are. I relate to bad. I am relating for some, help them not feel bad for today. And and a lot of things, they weren't here yesterday. They show up today. They don't have to be here tomorrow.
Yeah.
When someone visits you, it's for a period of time that you're comfortable spending with them. I always found in challenges in life, when I knew they were going to be a while, I invited them in because I knew they were here, right? And I wasn't going to make friends with them, but I was going to coexist with them, right? And give them their spot, and no more, no less, because the best position you can be in is control of you, right? Knowing you push the levers, knowing you direct yourself where you want to go. And if you want to indulge in silliness, negativity, then give it a short period of time, right? It's like, I can't get rid of this thought, but maybe I can get it out the door sooner today, right? And you work. I remember when you were saying about waking up to an alarm clock, right? And if you can set it a little bit. No, it was Gretchen actually, who said that, she had to start waking up early, but if she was just to move it an hour, it would be too much of a change. So she decided to move it like 5 minutes a day. And then by the time it became an hour, it was easy. So it's almost like someone puts a big steak in front of you. You got to have a knife and fork, right? You just can't figure out how to put that whole thing in at one time.
Right.
Right. And it's the same, and that's easy to see. And everybody say, I would never do that. I'd never grab a steak and try to stuff it in one time. What you do to your brain that you wouldn't do to your stomach, right? And then that's the key is if you can't be asking yourself these questions, be around people who will help you or ask the questions for you. You know, take responsibilities for someone's health by giving them the piece they're missing. We talk about the person in the grocery line that's short $2 and needs to eat tonight, right? And someone says, "Here, I'll take care of it," you know, and not to move the line, but to help the person. And I think that's what everybody say. Yeah, I got an extra one of those I'm not using. It's like if someone comes over and says, "I need a vice grip," you know, I got an issue. It's like, sure, take mine, right? I'm not using it, and I paid for it, and no worries bringing it back. You know, so you can be graceful, you can be generous, you can be thoughtful in so many ways that cost you so little, and it takes practice. You know, today, you know, I used to say hello, and then in the morning, because I'm into this good morning thing, so it's almost like an exercise every day to see, you know, who it is, and most of the people I see in the park, and I walk around, you know, so I do know some people, but other people, I'm still trying to get them away from looking at their shoes, you
Yeah.
know. You don't need to say good morning back, but please take a look at someone who's talking to you, because it's not I need it, but the rest of your day you'll be looking at shoes with everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we can help you look at the sky, see the sun instead of seeing the bottom. What's your thoughts, Kelly? I mean, we're just so
Totally
curious.
agree. It is so funny because for me, like when I see someone like that becomes, especially when it's something that's regular and you see the same people, and my example will be from a very large office that I worked in. And I was an executive, and there would be several staff that they would look down and away and like not make eye contact. And I would go out of my way, or even ones that are kind of grumpy in the morning, you know, not everybody's a morning person. And and I would go out of my way to be even like more joyful and be like, "Good morning." And they can't help but over time they'll start laughing or just be like, "Good morning," and they change and adjust to it. But it's like I just am determined. I'm like, I'm going to take this grumpster and I'm going to turn them into someone who says good morning, and it works. I mean, it's just a challenge because I love doing that, and I definitely when I'm out and about around strangers, I'm like you, Dawn. I always say hello to people. And I do think it's a thing for yourself because generally, when you give someone a smile and a hi, they do it back. And it's like, it just feels so great. And I just kind of wanted to go off of, and I think it was Poonam that said something about you can feel isolated when you're in a crowd. And that's so true. I mean, and it just reminded me of in my relationship from my ex-husband, I never felt more alone than when I was in a room with him. I mean, and it's just kind of the interesting part. And when I left that situation, I will never forget. I was sitting in an apartment that I had a mattress on the floor. I had nothing, but I finally felt not alone. And it was that whole thing of I had given myself away so long um, to another person, gave my power away, and sitting alone in a room, rediscovering my own power, which of course for me was with my faith. But it was just kind of like one of those light bulb life moments in the sense of, you know, I lost everything and I was literally starting from scratch all over, but I wouldn't have changed it for anything because I'd never felt so good to be back in that space. And that's when I talked about on other shows that I would get up in the morning and I would just have little checklists like go outside and smile at someone today because it would make someone smile back at me. I needed to rebuild, and I got involved with community. So I mean, all this comes together as the rediscovering. But I think about all of those people who would just, because I know I was walking around with my head held down. But people would go out of their way to say things to me. And I just remember that time period, you know, I was going through transformation, but really trying to re-find myself and get my light reignited. Um, all those people that just went out of their way, and it was like, gosh, that tiny little thing made a huge difference in my day and my life ultimately, because it is those series of small items that end up being big things. And I just think when I see someone out who's down, you never know what they're going through. It could be something pretty awful, or even someone when they cut me off on the road. I try to remind myself more often than not nowadays is maybe someone's in the hospital and they're in a hurry. There's a reason they're doing it, instead of it's not happening to me in the sense of like they didn't do it to me on purpose, like generally. I mean, I know sometimes people do that, but you know what I'm saying? We never know what others are going through. And I started to say and didn't say it very clearly, but that's why I think when I'm out in the world and I see someone down, I go out of my way because I've been that person. And it does make a difference. I mean, I'm living proof of it in so many ways, because I guarantee you there were times when that person came over to me and it did change my day in a way of like, okay, I do want to wake up again tomorrow. And it seems so small, but it does make a huge difference. And I always feel great when I see someone. I don't feel great when they'll look down, but I feel great afterwards when they kind of perk up and they're like, thank you. Or just giving them a compliment, like we've talked about before. If it's not, maybe a high isn't, I'll be, gosh, I really love your bag, or, I love your shoes, or whatever it is, and how that just changes someone's posture and their day. And like I said, because I know for me, it did make a big difference. So I know that's why I do it. And it makes you feel better. I mean, right? How do you not feel good when you look at someone and they light up smiling back at you? Like there's nothing greater than that, right?
Well, you almost are gifted with all these, let's say, gold coins or tokens that you can pass out every day, right? And if someone says, here's 50 gold tokens, and give it to people for just things that make you more aware of them or yourself. And, you forget that everybody is themselves, and how much, especially in jobs that don't get a lot of respect or appreciation. How many people, besides just giving a tip to a waiter or waitress, give them a tip of support? Like, you really did a great, in other words, yeah, here's my $20 tip, but so what? I mean, it cashes just as fast, but hey, you were so professional today, or you did things just perfect. I just want to commend you. I mean, that whole thing is 15 seconds, right? And meanwhile, that'll last all day for that person.
Mm-hmm.
And people are invisible when they're visible, right? Just like people can be lonely in a crowd.
Yeah.
You can not be seen and be seeable. And that's not good. But Andrea says, Kelly, I feel you so much, resonate with you. Christy, Andrea, it was Brandy yesterday. I know Christy's working with Brandy. SQ is a tough place to be, but this has helped me in ways I'll never be able to repay. That alone, I mean, this is sincerity. This is not somebody who thought of this last night and decided I'll just throw it out there. And it came because it was elicited by the trust, by the openness, by the friendship. And most people are always wondering, what's wrong with this? And what's wrong with this is them thinking what's wrong with this instead of accepting it for what it is and trying to add on to it. When people get what they want, sometimes they don't want it anymore.
That's right.
They're rushing to get somewhere. As soon as they get there, they're rushing to go somewhere else instead of just, they say if you don't know where you're going, you're probably where you're supposed to be. Andrea says, Chris, all right. Just recognizing someone.
Yeah.
Everybody is somebody. Everybody's only on this earth for so long.
That's right.
You can't save I'll thank them next week. You may not be here. They may not be here. We all may not be here. Who knows? And why would you want to wait on something that's top of mind? And that's the beauty of the show, is there's no way 2 days ago, I could have prepared something for now and know where everybody was, how they were thinking, what they were interested in. And, I would rather give than receive. I would rather help than take help, but I'm not afraid to ask for help. I think it's someone's obligation, because how many people do you know that could help you at no real expense to them, especially if it's just communication,
Mhm.
especially if it's just, can you help me out here? Talk to me for a while. And that's all people want to know, is that they need attention.
Mhm.
They used to get attention and they took attention for granted. And now when it's disappeared for no fault of their own, because of whatever factors that are taking place, it's technology, and it's really depersonalization when it should be personalization. People don't want to be herded into a large pen, right? They want the ability to be themselves where you're at yourself. And I think, to your point with the apartment and the mattress, how do you put a price on freedom?
You don't.
That's the key. And it shows you what is most important in life. To
Yep.
me, it's health and freedom. Because if you're free and you're healthy, you can start again.
That's
But
right.
right, if you're not healthy or you're not free, and that whole thought of help yourself so you can help more people.
Yep.
Make yourself stronger, make yourself bigger, make yourself better, and
Yeah.
then go out and serve. What's your thoughts, Kelly?
Yes, you just reminded me of my thing, because and that moment in my apartment too was the time I promised myself that I was going to become better and not bitter. I didn't
Mhm.
want to live in a place where I was angry or feeling robbed of some of my life, because my life was super nuts for like 2 years. My ex-husband stalked me, and I mean, granted, they call it aggravated harassment, but to an extreme. I mean, it was pretty awful. And in breaking away from that, and then people will say to me now, because I've spoken about this at other women events, about domestic violence and uh, mental abuse. It's a real thing, and it's powerful when you give away your power. How the manipulation can really mess with you, and people will say, like, I can't imagine that you would ever tolerate that. And I'm like, but I'm not the same person I was when I got into that. I was very young. He was much older than me. And it was a natural progression, in the sense of, like you said earlier, changing the clock 5 minutes, you don't notice the full hour. Well, it's the
Mhm.
same thing when you have, mental abuse. It's not like he did things all at once. And I was like, gosh, this guy's kind of a monster. It was very slow going until it wasn't. And so you do have an appreciation of life in such a different way. And people will also say, like, gosh, I'm so sorry you had to go through that. I could never do that. And I'm like, well, you would if you had to, because you have to. I mean, I had no other option. I had to get strong in a way that I never thought I could, starting from, and I want to say I was below empty. Being a giver, what you have to be careful of too is the takers.
Mhm.
you know, I gave so much. I mean, I was literally empty, and I was more afraid of the fact that even in that moment that I promised I was going to be better and not bitter, I felt nothing. And that felt more scary to me than living in fear. The feeling absolutely nothing was just terrible. Um, and it's hard to put into words and to describe what that really feels like, but it just feels so empty. And so now in my life, I mean, I recognize those takers and manipulation in a way, to me, that it's like so blatantly obvious. Um, but I know what my limits are, and I know who to have around me, um, because I only want the good people. Because unfortunately, not everybody is good, and there's nothing wrong with that. And I think part of, too, Don, what a lot of society teaches us, because how I felt as a young woman going through all that, the system didn't help me at all. It was a really ugly period, but I felt so alone and isolated on a completely different level. Um, but you learn the most when you go through the hardest times, which is so crazy to think, but I would never change that part of my life because I wouldn't be who I am. And honestly, the part of the thing that went through my mind when I first started this with you was, one, I was like, Dawn, I don't know about being live on camera. Like, that kind of scares me. I didn't even do social media for many years because of the stalking situation. So the fact that, like, I'm on camera, I have so healed and grown beyond any of that. It almost feels like a lifetime ago to me, and it is a different person that went through it. But that's what empowers me about it. It's like everything in my life that led to this moment right now, I wouldn't change. And it's not all been pretty. It's been downright ugly and painful and tragic in several cases. But I wouldn't change it because I wouldn't be who I am. And like, we should be proud of that. And society in some way does teach us with what I started to say about going through domestic violence and working with the system. There was a shame involved that was so heavy on me because I felt ashamed. And I know that we've talked about this on other shows and with other guests, but the person I forgave last was myself. And it's interesting that it was like, and again, it was another kind of an epiphany moment that I was like, why is this all still so heavy on me after years? And I went to lots of counseling to help heal myself. But it was like, oh my gosh, I haven't forgiven me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, why was that so difficult? And of course, once we all get to the other side of something, we're like, man, why did I hold on to that so long? And I didn't even realize had been holding it. And it's just interesting. But the way that you find out that you're still holding stuff is by talking to people.
Well, I'm talking to people like Andrea, who's dealing and has dealt with the same situation, maybe in different ways, is however you get to safety, you have to realize you're safe, right? Whatever you went through is over. The hurricanes passed, right? The tornadoes not coming back, at least for a while. And now it's rebuilding time, right? Mm-hmm. It's taken us a long breath and dusting yourself off. And you have to realize that everything that happened to you, like you say, over time, happened over time. Yep. It's going to take over time to continue to move stuff that's been placed to make you less of yourself and give you now more room to build more yourself. But I wish there was a program like this when you were going through it.
Oh, I do too.
Right?
I really do.
Just say, hey, I found an island in the sun for an hour, plus people just like me, right? You and Andrea would have been perfect fits, especially if you're both going through it at the same time, in the same kind of way, and you're not alone again. And now you've got someone to build on, to build with. It's one to get another one. And that's how you all of a sudden get a circle of friends that get bigger without your even moving it yourself, but it moves itself. And Christine says, no, it's not an excuse, but I think people hurt other people, obviously. Yes. And then they're all people themselves. I hate to be in their skin when they're bubbling over and furious and embarrassing to everybody around them, including themselves. Mm-hmm. You know, that's pathetic. That's not strength. You know, that's brute force. Mm-hmm. You know, and imposing oneself beyond any sort of balance. And when someone, like you say, now sees it a mile away, that's never going to happen again. That's right? If you hear a fire alarm, you're not going to run towards the building. And I think that's so key. It's sad that the domestic does not include mental abuse by most people's definition. There's as many ways as there are to abuse people, and there's countless ways. There's that many ways to uplift people.
Yes.
If you turn the channel and that person was supportive and generous and kind and loving, right? It would all come back to them. in bigger quantities because the other person was a giver to begin with. The other person had to learn.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, that life continues, right? Through someone else, through something else. But the idea was not to discontinue it, but to discontinue it with the person, not discontinue what they do because you don't have control over it. Going to have to wrap it up. We're a little bit over, but this has been so cool. I've seen people fix situations. Abuser wants help. I've also sent tragic outcomes. My friend was murdered by her fiance.
Ugh.
This stuff,
No joke. I mean, it's so no joke, and it always sounds so dramatic to people. But I mean, the terror that you live in with that, and I do think, when I went through it, it certainly wasn't something that people talked about openly. And I do know it's much more talked about now, and I think it's so important to. And this came with Anne sharing her story. It touched one other person who was like, oh my gosh, I've gone through the same thing as I'm going through what you went through. I'm so grateful I'm not alone. And I just think it's so important to share those things because you will help somebody regardless. Because I guarantee someone who is probably even listening that hasn't commented on anything is going, oh my gosh, I can totally relate to that. And it's not just me. And I'm not the only one that feels like this isn't labeled a certain way for society to see. But I didn't see what was said on here. Sorry. Oh, amen, Derek.
And that's what Andrea agreed on. And, Jody says, being one of who has been through mental and physical abuse, find the reality and perception of me lost in the emotions and darkness of the feelings beaten deep within. This is real life. This isn't like everybody survives. It's not like everybody gets there. Some people don't have it, and some people's situations beyond anybody's control. I had to understand growth from the pain and intrusion. It's a journey. Everything in life is a journey.
Amen. And it goes to the whole thing, and I do say this pretty often as well. If growth were easy, everybody would be doing it. Growth is not easy. It can be very painful at times, but it's worth it. I would, like I said, I wouldn't change it for anything in the world. I love who I am. I accept every bit of me. I'm not defined by any one situation in my life. I am a series of many, many events. And at my core, I truly do love who I am. And I probably was not able to say that for a period of time, which I have gone back and forgiven myself for, and even had a conversation with the younger me. Like, you know what? You did the best you could with what you had at the time. And that's okay.
Well, that's all, and that's all you can do is the best you can do. And if it comes up short, it just means you got more work to do to get the other piece, right? If you go to the bank and you need so much money to buy a house and you're short 1,000, you find a way to make it and come back and do it, and that's why having the ability to bless yourself, to be kinder to yourself, because you have yourself more than anybody else for more time than anybody else. And at a certain point, when it happens all the time, it can't be a surprise anymore. Right? It can't be, oh, wow, this is tragic. No, it happens every day. It's reality. Now, the only way to fix it is to disconnect from it and reconnect to something that serves you. And people got to take that action, but it's easy to say if you're not there. Yes, I was on a roller coaster, had children. The dad threatened to kidnap and take to another country, was abusive, then health concerns. And after a loss this last summer, I realized I hadn't really ever taken time to release all of this. And that's so important, because sometimes you just got to put it in a better place than where it is, that serves you better than it has, and I think Jody says, and it can be beautiful, transforming journey when found from love within self. Well, that's the love that you can always count on, is your own love. Right? People and situations will change, and you need to be ready. Yes, love within is our healer. We're getting so much confirmation, so much validation from so many people. People are helping and then getting validated and supported for doing this, which will encourage more people to do it because it's valuable. People have treasure that they shouldn't hold to themselves. And the more you share, the bigger the treasure gets. It's not intuitive. Linda, my children are taken for a week from my abuser.
Oh,
I mean, this is kids. This is people's kids. This isn't like someone didn't get their money this week or something got ruined like furniture or something. These are people. Talking to people makes you really realize how much hurt you've been holding on to. It's very harmful to one's health. It's better to pour it out than keeping it all in. Listen, if it makes you feel better, it's the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's your right to decide what you do with what you got and what you don't want. I mean, you wouldn't go order hamburger and they didn't cook it, right? And it's raw and say, well, not a big deal. I can handle it. No, you got to say, this isn't right. I can't accept this, and you don't have to talk a mile. Just say what you feel. And, it is what it is. And when people say you don't want it, they're going to be a little hesitant about giving it to you, right? But it's your right to tell people what you want, when you want it, how you want it, and why you need it in your own good time. But why not make it easier on everybody so it's like, I didn't get you. What were you saying? Or, that kind of stuff. So, if anything this shows is that slowly people are letting things go because other people are letting things go. They're finding out they are far from being alone or the only one dealing with this. If you ask everybody here, someone will have a story that broke their heart. Someone will have someone who left their life and it's never been the same. And in their own mind, it can't be the same. That empty chair will always have those memories. And that's the benefit, though, is if you miss somebody, if you miss something, it's because you enjoyed it so much. It served you so well, right? And when it's gone, now it's your opportunity to serve yourself and get permission, right? And that's really the permission you need. Here's Jody says, what amazing connection. Thank you. We are never alone. And you should never be alone. Would you ever go in a room with a book and decide, I don't need any light, I'll just read it in the dark, right? You'd never do that. So everybody in little ways knows what serves them, knows what's right for them. And if someone rejects who you are, what you are, or why you are, all they're saying is move on.
Right.
Right? Don't try to convince them. You're not here to sell, you're here to share. And if people say, yeah, not for me, well, then you say, probably not for me either. Thank you.
Right. Thank you.
Take, a key to open this door. And if it's not here, then I got to find it somewhere else. So with that, I want to thank everybody. It's 10:13. I mean, it's 13 a little over, but I don't want to ever cut people off who have a thought, a need, an issue. And, use this as a foundation. Reach out to Andrea or myself or Kelly, Jody, right? And say, let's connect. If you feel it and if you feel you could be it for them, right? Match has to be a two-way street. But, yesterday I reached out. I'm doing that 10 by 10. So I'm outreaching to 10 people. I got 3 phone calls, and one person is coming to LinkedIn Live next week, Raquel Flores. She has her own show. She's a great lady, got a tremendous story that matches up with everything we're talking about today. Have a great and cheesy day, everyone. That's our resident comic. So always have nothing like levity. But with that, thank you, Kelly, so much. If you have any final words, thank everybody. Have a beautiful day. Rest up. We'll be back in 23 hours. What a great conversation as always. And Christy Howard will be our co-host tomorrow. And there's nobody like
Feel Good Friday.
Yeah. So anyways, love you all. Look forward to another wonderful session tomorrow. Bye for now.